They thought I was just another disposable cog in their machine, easily replaced and forgotten. But the moment my name echoed through that conference room in front of 90 souls, I knew this power game was far from over. When I pressed that button in the elevator, their entire empire began crumbling, hour by hour, second by second, dollar by dollar. $100,000 per hour, to be exact. And I watched it all burn from the comfort of my apartment, wine in hand, savoring every desperate email that flooded my inbox. My name is Isabella Hart, and for 12 years, I bled corporate blue for Veritech Systems. 12 years of missed birthdays, canceled vacations, and cold dinners eaten at my desk while ensuring every federal contract crossed every legal T and dotted every bureaucratic I. I was their guardian angel in Armani, the one who kept the wolves of regulatory compliance at bay. The auditorium was packed that Tuesday morning, the kind of mandatory all-hands meeting that made everyone nervous. Lucas Grant, our new CEO, 32, Harvard MBA, and wearing a smile sharp enough to cut glass, stood at the podium like he owned the air we breathed. He'd been here 6 weeks, long enough to memorize names, but not long enough to understand what made this company tick. Change is the lifeblood of innovation, he began, his voice carrying that Silicon Valley evangelist tone that made my skin crawl. And today, we're announcing a bold restructuring that will position Veritech for unprecedented growth. I sat in the third row, coffee growing cold in my hands. Around me, colleagues shifted uncomfortably. We'd all heard restructuring before. It was corporate speak for bloodletting. Lucas clicked through his presentation. Colorful charts, aggressive projections, synergy this, optimization that. Then came the slide we'd all been dreading. Organizational efficiency enhancement. As we streamline our operations, we need to make some difficult decisions about redundancies, he said, not even having the decency to look uncomfortable. I want to thank the following individuals for their contributions to Veritech. The list began. Marketing coordinators, junior analysts, the usual suspects when companies decided to trim fat. I watched Sarah from accounting turn white as her name was called. Tom from procurement stared at his shoes. Then, without warning, like a sniper's bullet I never saw coming. Isabella Hart, Chief Compliance Officer. The room tilted. 90 pairs of eyes swiveled toward me, some shocked, others pitying, a few barely concealing their satisfaction. I'd made enemies over the years. That's what happens when your job is telling people no to their brilliant, legally questionable ideas. Lucas continued reading names, but the sound faded to white noise. 12 years. I'd built the entire compliance infrastructure from scratch. I knew every contract, every clause, every federal regulation that kept this company from becoming another cautionary tale in the Wall Street Journal. We thank you all for your service, Lucas concluded, looking directly at me with those cold, venture capitalist eyes. HR will be in touch regarding your transition packages. Transition package, as if 2 weeks severance per year could compensate for the peace of my soul I'd mortgaged to this place. I stood slowly, deliberately, making sure every person in that room saw me rise. My heels clicked against the floor. Louboutins I'd bought to celebrate my 10th anniversary here. I didn't hurry, didn't slouch, didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. The security guard at the door, Marcus, whose daughter I'd helped get an internship last summer, couldn't meet my eyes as he handed me a cardboard box. I'm sorry, Ms. Hart. You have 30 minutes to clear your office. 30 minutes to pack up 12 years. They'd calculated everything, hadn't they? Everything except one small detail that their boy wonder CEO, in all his algorithmic wisdom, had missed. I was still the sole authorized compliance officer on every federal contract Veritech had, every single one. Contracts worth $800 million in active projects. And in their haste to humiliate me publicly, they'd forgotten that changing that designation required my signature. As I walked toward the elevator, box in hand, I felt the weight of my company phone in my pocket, still active for another 29 minutes, still connected to every system I'd spent over a decade protecting. They thought they were removing a redundancy. They were about to learn they'd just pulled the pin on a grenade. The elevator was empty. Small mercies in corporate hell. 27 minutes left on my access. The box in my arms held nothing important. A succulent that had somehow survived 5 years of fluorescent lighting. A coffee mug that said, "World's okayest lawyer." And a photograph from the company picnic where we'd all still believed in something bigger than quarterly earnings. 4th floor. 5th floor. My fingers moved across my phone screen with practiced precision. The Federal Contract Management System app opened with my biometric scan. Beautiful, really, how they'd designed it for maximum security. Every change required multi-factor authentication. Every modification left an audit trail. Every designation needed the authorized officer's explicit consent. 6th floor? 7th? I navigated to the Responsible Compliance Officer Registry. There it was. My name attached to 47 active federal contracts, defense communication systems, classified server infrastructure, homeland security consulting projects, each one requiring continuous compliance oversight to maintain active status. 8th floor. 9th. My thumb hovered over the option I'd never thought I'd use. Administrative leave, compliance suspended, pending reassignment. It was meant for medical emergencies, sudden departures, deaths. A fail-safe to prevent contracts from operating without proper oversight. Once activated, every associated contract would freeze within 6 hours. No development work, no billing, no deliverables. Just a red screen warning that would cascade through every project management system in the company. The reactivation process? Only the designated officer could reverse it. With their authenticated signature, in person or through verified legal documentation, 10th floor, 11th, they'd given me 30 minutes to disappear. They'd announced my termination like I was furniture being removed during a remodel. Lucas Grant had stood there, reading my name with the same inflection he'd used for the junior mail clerk. 12th floor, 13th. I thought about Jennifer in legal, who'd warned me about Lucas during his second week. "He's got that Stanford MBA disease," she'd said. "Thinks everything can be optimized, including people." I thought about the development team in Seattle, working round the clock on the Pentagon's new encryption protocol, a project I'd shepherded through 18 months of bureaucratic hell. I thought about the 100,000 per hour penalties written into every federal contract for non-compliance delays. 14th floor, 15th. My finger pressed down. "Confirm administrative leave?" the screen asked. I confirmed. "Warning, this action will suspend 47 active federal contracts. Estimated impact, critical. Proceed." I proceeded. "Final confirmation required. Please enter your authorization code." I typed the 16-digit code I'd memorized 5 years ago. The same code that had saved us from 3 different audit disasters and 1 congressional inquiry. "Administrative leave activated. Contracts entering suspension protocol. Notification will be sent to designated federal liaisons in 6 hours." 16th floor, 17th. I slipped the phone into my pocket. In 6 hours, when I was sitting in my apartment, probably halfway through a bottle of Malbec, Veritech's entire federal division would grind to a halt. Every system would lock. Every developer would be locked out. Every project manager would wake up to a Christmas tree of red alerts. And the beautiful part? The truly delicious irony? It was all perfectly legal. Perfectly within protocol. I wasn't sabotaging anything. I was following federal compliance requirements to the letter. The same requirements I tried to explain to Lucas in our only one-on-one meeting, where he'd dismissed my concerns about succession planning as bureaucratic overthinking. 18th floor. 19th. Almost at my office. Former office. Marcus was waiting by my door, looking miserable. "Ms. Hart, It's fine." "Marcus." I set down the box and began pulling personal items from my desk. The corporate compliance handbook I'd written. They could keep that. The federal contractor badges, those stayed. But the small bronze plaque that read, "Excellence in Compliance 2019. That was mine. 20 minutes left. I logged into my desktop one last time, forwarding personal emails to my Gmail. My eyes caught the desktop wallpaper, a photo of the compliance team at last year's Christmas party. Half of them had already been restructured over the past month. An email popped up from Lucas Grant. Subject: Transition Coordination. Isabella, I want to personally thank you for your years of service. Please coordinate with Jennifer to ensure a smooth knowledge transfer. We'll need all your passwords and documentation within 48 hours. Knowledge transfer. He actually thought 12 years of institutional knowledge could be downloaded like a software update. I closed the email without responding. In approximately 5 hours and 40 minutes, he'd understand exactly what he'd thrown away. When the first Pentagon liaison called, when the first stop work order hit, when the first $100,000 penalty clicked over. I picked up my box, took one last look at the office where I'd spent countless nights protecting this company from its own ambitions, and walked out. Marcus escorted me to the lobby in silence. As the revolving door expelled me onto the street, I felt my phone buzz one last time before IT remote wiped it. System notification, compliance suspension protocol initiated, countdown begun. The October air was crisp, almost refreshing after years of recycled office atmosphere. I hailed a cab, gave the driver my address, and settled back into the seat. They wanted efficiency. They were about to learn the brutal efficiency of federal contract law. Wednesday morning, 7:47 a.m. I was enjoying my first unemployed breakfast, eggs Benedict made properly, not scarfed down at my desk, when my personal phone began its symphony. 14 missed calls, 23 texts. My LinkedIn notifications were having a seizure. I took another sip of fresh squeezed orange juice and opened the first message. What the fuck happened? Jennifer, Legal Department, 7:23 a.m. Isabella, please call immediately. David, CTO, 7:31 a.m. System-wide lockout on all federal projects. Please advise. Automated message from Veritex Project Management System, 7:35 a.m. I switched my phone to silent and turned on the local news. Nothing yet. These things took time to percolate up to the media. But inside Veritex Glass Tower, I knew exactly what was happening. The first wave would have hit at 6 a.m. sharp. Developers in Seattle, early risers working on the Defense Department's quantum encryption project, would have found themselves staring at red screens. Contract suspended, compliance officer authorization required. The $50 million project, 4 months from deadline, frozen solid. By 6:30, the project managers would be in full panic mode. Slack channels exploding, emergency Zoom calls spinning up. Everyone asking the same question. What do you mean we can't access anything? By 7 a.m., someone smart, probably Jennifer, would have pulled up the federal contract terms. Section 47, Subsection 3. All work must be conducted under active compliance supervision. Absence of designated compliance officer automatically triggers work stoppage to prevent unauthorized access to classified materials. By 7:15, they would have discovered the truly beautiful part. I wasn't just the designated officer, I was the sole designated officer. In their cost-cutting frenzy, they'd never appointed a backup. Why would they? I'd never taken a sick day in 5 years. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Veritex Systems stock down 8% in pre-market trading on rumors of federal contract issues. Only 8%? Give it time. I opened my laptop and logged into my personal email. 127 new messages, most from Veritech addresses. I scrolled through them like an art collector admiring a new acquisition. Isabella, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Lucas Grant, 7:44 a.m. Misunderstanding. That's what he called leaving me off the transition planning, making me a public spectacle, throwing away 12 years of institutional knowledge for his quarterly bonus. The phone rang again. Unknown number with a 202 area code, Washington, D.C. I let it go to voicemail. Ms. Hart, this is Colonel James Richardson from the Pentagon's Defense Innovation Unit. We're showing all Veritech contracts in suspension. We need immediate clarification on your company's ability to meet critical defense deadlines. Please contact me immediately. Your company. Even the Pentagon still thought I worked there. Another news alert. Breaking. Veritech federal contracts worth $800 million reportedly frozen. I pulled up Veritech's internal status page. They'd never revoked my read-only access to that. The dashboard looked like a Christmas tree having a nervous breakdown. Red alerts cascading through every system. The Seattle team's Slack channel had 2,847 unread messages. The project management system showed 47 contracts in critical compliance hold status. The penalty calculator at the bottom made my heart sing. Estimated daily penalties for work stoppage, $2,400,000. That was $100,000 per hour. Per contract violation. And they had 47 contracts. My phone rang again. This time, a number I recognized. David Kim, the CTO. We'd worked together for 8 years. He'd been in the room yesterday. Silent as Lucas read my name. I answered, Isabella. Thank God. Listen. We have a situation. I'm aware. Can you come in? We need to resolve this immediately. I don't work there anymore, David, remember? Lucas made that quite clear to 90 people yesterday. That was a mistake. Obviously, we can fix this. Just come in and reactivate the contracts. And we'll sort everything else out. I'm not authorized to work on behalf of Veritech anymore. You terminated me, publicly, without cause or notice. My accessing those systems now would be a federal crime. Silence. I could hear frantic typing in the background. What if we rehired you immediately? That would require paperwork, background checks, security clearance revalidation. The federal government doesn't accept oops as a reinstatement justification. Minimum processing time is 6 weeks. 6 weeks? Isabella, we'll be bankrupt in 6 days. That sounds like a Veritech problem, not an Isabella Hart problem. What do you want? His voice cracked. Money? Your job back? An apology? I want to finish my breakfast. David, it's excellent, by the way. First hot breakfast I've had in years. Isabella. I hung up. The news was catching up now. Veritech CEO Lucas Grant faces emergency board meeting as federal contract crisis deepens. I poured myself another cup of coffee, the good stuff, not the break room swill I'd tolerated for years, and opened my LinkedIn. My inbox was fascinating. Recruiters who'd never given me the time of day were suddenly very interested in my expertise. Former colleagues were reaching out with variations of OMG and you're a legend. And there, buried among the panic and praise, was a message from someone unexpected. Ms. Hart, watching Veritech's situation with interest. When you're ready to discuss your next move, Northrop Grumman would love to talk. We believe in treating our compliance officers with the respect they deserve. Sandra Chen, VP of Federal Programs. Not today, Sandra. Today, I was enjoying the show. Another news alert. Veritech trading halted as stock plummets 18%. I raised my coffee cup in a silent toast to Lucas Grant and his optimization strategies. He'd wanted to streamline operations. Mission accomplished. The emergency board meeting started at noon. I knew because Jennifer texted me play-by-play updates, despite the NDAs everyone had surely signed. Lucas just tried to blame IT department, 12:07 p.m. CFO calculating burn rate. His hands are shaking. 12:15 p.m. They just realized you're the only one who can sign the reactivation forms. 12:22 p.m. Someone suggested forging your signature. Legal shut that down hard. 12:31 p.m. That last one made me laugh out loud. Forge a federal compliance officer's signature? That wasn't just termination. That was federal prison. 5 to 10 years, depending on the judge's mood. By 2 p.m., Veritech's war room was in full meltdown mode. I knew because Michael from IT, sweet, nervous Michael who'd always brought me coffee during late-night system updates, called me from his personal phone. Isabella, I'm not supposed to be calling you, but it's chaos here. They've got 3 law firms on conference calls, 2 crisis management consultants, and someone from the State Department just showed up. The State Department? The Jordan Military Base Infrastructure Project. Apparently, it's part of some peace accord. They're saying if we can't deliver, it could affect international relations. I hadn't considered that angle. Delicious. Michael, are they trying to find a workaround? Oh God, yes. They've had every programmer in the company trying to crack the system for the last 4 hours, but you built it too well. Every backdoor leads to another authentication wall. Someone tried to use the emergency override, but that requires the compliance officer's biometric scan and physical security token, which were deactivated the moment they processed my termination. Exactly. HR is having a meltdown because they can't undo the termination without your signature, but they can't get your signature because you're terminated, and the federal system won't recognize anyone else until you officially transfer authority, which you can't do because I'm terminated. It's a perfect circle. Michael's voice dropped to a whisper. The developers are calling it the heart attack. I smiled. Gallows humor, the last refuge of the tech worker. At 3 p.m., the real panic set in. That's when the first federal stop work order arrived. The Pentagon didn't play around. If a contractor couldn't perform, they'd find one who could. And the penalties for breaking a stop work order made the hourly fines look like parking tickets. My phone rang. Lucas Grant himself. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Isabella. His voice had lost that Silicon Valley smoothness. We need to resolve this situation. What situation? I'm unemployed, remember? Just another redundancy in your optimization plan. That was a miscommunication. Was it? Because 90 people heard you very clearly. Or was that a different Lucas Grant who stood at that podium yesterday? Silence. Then, what do you want? Right now, I'm thinking about ordering Thai food. The place down the street does an excellent pad see ew. This is costing the company $100,000 an hour. Actually, it's costing $100,000 per hour per contract. So really, more like $4.7 million per hour. Didn't they teach multiplication at Harvard? I heard a crash in the background. Sounded like someone had thrown something. You're destroying the company. No. Lucas, I'm unemployed. I'm sitting in my apartment, enjoying my severance period. You're destroying the company. I'm just watching. This is extortion. This is consequence. You fired your chief compliance officer without understanding what compliance means. You announced it publicly without checking the dependencies. You optimized without understanding the system. That's not extortion. That's incompetence. The board will sue you. For what? Following federal protocol? Protecting classified information by ensuring only authorized personnel have access? Jenny in legal can explain how that lawsuit would go. Spoiler alert, not well. Another crash. Definitely something being thrown. You planned this. I planned nothing. You handed me a cardboard box and 30 minutes. The federal government handed me protocols that I've followed for 12 years. You just never bothered to understand them. We'll rehire you immediately. Full restoration of benefits. A raise, a promotion. Just come back and fix this. I don't negotiate with people who throw tantrums, or furniture, from the sound of it. The company will go under. Then maybe the next company will think twice before treating their compliance officer like disposable furniture. I hung up. At 4 p.m., the news broke wide. Tech disaster, Veritech loses access to 800 million in federal contracts after firing key executive. At 5 p.m., the Pentagon announced they were reviewing Veritech's fitness as a federal contractor. At 6 p.m., 3 major investors announced they were pulling out. By 7 p.m., Heart Attack was trending on Twitter, complete with memes about firing the person who holds all the keys and optimization gone wrong. I ordered Thai food and opened a bottle of wine. The pad CUW was excellent. The Cabernet was even better. My phone had 247 missed calls. My email had 892 new messages. Tomorrow, they'd likely try something more creative. Legal injunctions, maybe. Court orders. Emotional manipulation using former colleagues I actually liked. But tonight? Tonight, I watched a $3 billion company discover that some people aren't redundancies. Some people are load-bearing walls. And when you remove them without understanding the architecture, the whole building comes crashing down. $100,000 at a time. Thursday morning arrived with a CNN notification. Veritech stock suspended from trading after 47% overnight plunge in foreign markets. I stood on my balcony, 18 floors above the city, cradling a cup of Ethiopian coffee I'd never had time to appreciate before. Below, the streets pulsed with their usual chaos, everyone rushing to jobs they thought were secure, to companies they believed would outlast them. My LinkedIn had become a digital wildfire. 10,000 new followers overnight. Messages from every major defense contractor in the country. 3 interview offers from companies that had ghosted my applications just 6 months ago. Funny how unemployment makes you attractive when it comes with an $800 million crater attached to your name. The best message came from Rachel Martinez, a junior compliance analyst I'd mentored. Ms. Hart. We're all secretly cheering. Lucas made us work through lunch yesterday, trying to find a loophole. There isn't one. You built a masterpiece. A masterpiece, 12 years of meticulous documentation, airtight protocols, and redundant safety measures, all designed to protect Veritech from exactly this scenario. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. At 10 a.m., a black town car appeared outside my building. I watched from my window as 3 suits emerged. The middle one I recognized, Harrison Blake, chairman of Veritech's board. Old money, old power. The kind of man who usually let others clean up messes while he golfed at Augusta. My doorman called up. Ms. Hart, you have visitors. They say it's urgent. Tell them I'm not receiving visitors today. Or tomorrow. Or any day ending in I. 20 minutes later, they were still there. Harrison himself was on his phone, pacing, gesticulating. His 2 lawyers stood like Secret Service agents, probably calculating their billable hours. Jennifer texted. Board voted no confidence in Lucas. He's out, effective immediately. So the boy wonder lasted exactly 53 hours after his triumphant restructuring. Another Harvard MBA success story for the books. They want to make you an offer. The real kind. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and checked Veritech's internal status page. The penalty counter had reached $127.4 million. The Jordan project had been reassigned to Lockheed Martin. The Pentagon was conducting an emergency audit. 3 congressional representatives were calling for investigations into gross mismanagement of critical defense infrastructure. My phone rang. Unknown number. Isabella Hart. The voice was female, authoritative, unfamiliar. Yes. This is Deputy Director Sarah Coleman from the Defense Contract Management Agency. We need to discuss the Veritech situation. I don't work for Veritech anymore. We're aware. That's why I'm calling you directly. We've been monitoring the situation, and frankly, we're concerned about the national security implications. Then perhaps someone should have considered that before publicly terminating the person responsible for maintaining compliance. A pause. Between us, Ms. Hart, we agree. Lucas Grant is already on our blacklist for future positions requiring security clearance. But right now, we need those contracts operational. The Jordan infrastructure project alone affects 3 allied nations. I'm listening. We can't force you to return to Veritech, but we can make it clear that your cooperation in resolving this matter would be appreciated by people who matter. Are you threatening me, Deputy Director? Quite the opposite. I'm suggesting that the person who helps resolve this crisis would have the full backing of the DCMA for any future endeavors. Conversely, the person who lets critical defense infrastructure fail might find federal contracting doors surprisingly closed. The stick and the carrot, elegantly delivered. I'll consider it. Please do. My direct line is 202-555-147. We need resolution within 48 hours, or we'll have to begin emergency procurement processes. that would effectively end Veritech as a federal contractor. Permanently. She hung up. I stood at my window, watching the town car below. Harrison was still pacing. One of the lawyers was now sitting on the hood, head in his hands. They looked like mourners at a very expensive funeral. My neighbor, Mrs. Pratt Chen from 18B, knocked on my door. "Isabella, dear, are you all right? There are men in suits camped outside. Should I call the police?" "No need, Mrs. Chen. They're just learning that some things can't be fixed with money or lawyers." "Good for you, dear. That company never appreciated you. All those late nights, missed holidays. My husband was the same with his firm. They laid him off after 30 years, via email." She patted my hand and left. Her story was everyone's story. Loyalty repaid with efficiency metrics, dedication rewarded with redundancy notices. By evening, Veritech had issued 3 press releases, each more desperate than the last. Lucas Grant's resignation was framed as pursuing other opportunities. The contract situation was described as a temporary technical issue. The $150 million in accumulated penalties was called a manageable adjustment to quarterly projections. The town car was still outside. Harrison Blake had been joined by 2 more board members. They looked like refugees from a country club apocalypse. I pulled up the federal contract system on my personal laptop. My credentials still showed as active. The federal government moved slowly on personnel updates. With a few keystrokes, I could end this. Restore access. Save 8,000 jobs. Prevent a defense contractor from imploding. All it would take was my digital signature. I closed the laptop. Let them wait. Let them feel what it was like to be powerless. To watch your professional life crumble in real time while people in suits made calculations about your worth. The wine tonight was a Chateau Margaux 2010. I'd been saving it for a special occasion. This seemed special enough. Friday morning, day 4 of the crisis. The offers started arriving at dawn. First email. 6:23 a.m. Ms. Hart, the board authorizes me to offer you $2 million signing bonus, immediate reinstatement as Chief Compliance Officer, and a 40% salary increase. Harrison Blake delete. Second email. 7:15 a.m. Isabella, please. People are going to lose their jobs. Good people who had nothing to do with this. $3 million. Executive Vice President title. Your own team of 20. Jennifer. Legal archive. Third email. 8:45 a.m. Name your price. Literally. Write a number. Any number. Board of Directors, Veritech. Ignore. The calls were more creative. They sent my old mentor from my first job. They had my college roommate reach out. They even got my hairdresser to casually mention how concerned everyone was about the situation. But the most pathetic attempt came at noon. A knock at my door. When I opened it, there stood my former team. 5 analysts I'd trained, mentored, protected from corporate politics for years. Isabella. Maria spoke first, tears in her eyes. "We know this isn't fair to ask, but we're scared. We have mortgages, kids in college. If the company goes under..." I looked at their faces. These were good people. They'd worked late nights beside me, sacrificed weekends, delivered excellence that Lucas Grant couldn't even spell. "Did they send you here?" Maria nodded. "Harrison Blake said if we could convince you to come back, we'd keep our jobs regardless of other layoffs. And if you couldn't..." Silence. I invited them in, poured coffee, and spoke honestly. "They're using you as human shields. They could have prevented this by treating people with respect. Instead, they're weaponizing your fear to clean up their mess." "But you could fix it," Tom pleaded. "You could save everyone." "I could. But what happens next time? When the next Lucas Grant decides you're redundant? When the next board meeting determines your years of loyalty are worth less than a quarterly projection? If I fix this now, they learn nothing except that they can abuse people without consequences." "So we're collateral damage?" Maria's voice was bitter. "You're victims of the same system that discarded me. The difference is, I have the power to make them accountable. How often does that happen?" They left without another word. I didn't blame them. Fear makes people desperate, and desperate people make compromised choices. By 3 p.m., the negotiations shifted to threats. Ms. Tiart, if you don't return, we'll sue you for sabotage and breach of fiduciary duty. Veritech Legal Department. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who responded with one word: adorable. At 4 p.m., they tried emotional manipulation. Lucas Grant himself sent a video message. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 4 days. Good. Isabella, I made a mistake. A terrible, arrogant mistake. I'm sorry. I've resigned. But please don't let my stupidity destroy what you helped build. These contracts, this company, it's your legacy too. My legacy? My legacy was being publicly humiliated in front of 90 people. My legacy was a cardboard box and 30 minutes to disappear. At 5 p.m., Harrison Blake tried a different approach, a handwritten letter delivered by courier. Ms. Hart, I've been chairman for 15 years. I've seen executives come and go, watched egos destroy good companies. What Lucas did was unconscionable. What we allowed was worse. You deserved better. The employees deserve better. I'm not asking you to forgive us. I'm asking you to be better than us. Return under your own terms. Write your own contract. Name your conditions. Build the compliance department you always wanted with the authority you should have always had. The federal contracts are just the beginning. Without you, we lose our security clearance renewals next month. That's another $2 billion. The company won't survive. 8,000 people are counting on your mercy. Harrison Blake. 8,000 people. I stood at my window, watching the city below. Each light in those office buildings represented someone like me, like Maria, like the security guard Marcus who'd handed me that cardboard box with tears in his eyes. But mercy without justice is just enablement. If I went back now, the message would be clear. Treat your employees like trash, and they'll still save you when you need them. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Pentagon. Ms. Hart, final warning. Resolution needed by Monday 9 a.m. or Veritech loses all federal contractor status. Permanently, Cole. Richardson. 3 days. They had 3 days to meet my terms or watch their company dissolve into bankruptcy and disgrace. I pulled out a legal pad and began writing. Not my return conditions, those had been clear in my mind since Tuesday. But my resignation letter from the job I hadn't started yet. The one I'd send to whatever company hired me next. The moment they treated someone as disposable. Because that's what they'd never understand. These men in their suits and their boardrooms. Every company thought they were different, special, immune to the consequences of treating people like resources instead of humans. Veritech was about to learn otherwise. The wine tonight was a Screaming Eagle Cabernet, $3,000 a bottle. I'd bought it the day I was promoted to Chief Compliance Officer, planning to drink it at my retirement party. Plans change. The town car was still outside. Harrison Blake was slumped in the back seat, his phone dark in his hand. Let him wait. Let them all wait. The clock was ticking. $100,000 at a time. Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. The boardroom at Veritech headquarters looked like a war zone dressed in Armani. Empty coffee cups scattered across the mahogany table. Legal documents stacked like paper tombstones. The smell of fear and flop sweat hanging in the recycled air. I walked in wearing the same suit I'd worn to my first day 12 years ago. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, the one that made me feel invincible when I was young and naive enough to believe corporations had souls. Every head turned. Harrison Blake looked like he'd found religion. The other board members, venture capitalists and investment bankers who usually attended via video call, had flown in from New York, Singapore, London. When $800 million hemorrhages by the hour, even the gods descend from Olympus. Isabella. Harrison stood, gesturing to a chair. Thank you for coming. I remained standing. I have 3 conditions. They're non-negotiable. You have 5 minutes to decide. Jennifer from legal started to speak, but I cut her off with a look that could freeze helium. First, I pulled out a single sheet of paper. $7 million, deposited into my account within 48 hours, not a signing bonus, not a salary advance, compensation for damage to my professional reputation and the intentional infliction of emotional distress. That's, someone started, non-negotiable. Second, full restoration of all benefits, including pension, stock options, and health care. Backdated to my original hire date. The termination never happened. It gets expunged from all records, internal and external. Harrison nodded frantically. Of course, anything. I'm not finished. Third, I locked eyes with each board member in turn. Lucas Grant doesn't just resign. He makes a public statement accepting full responsibility for gross mismanagement and incompetence. He admits he fired me without understanding the critical nature of my role, and he forfeits his severance package, which gets distributed to the employees who would have been laid off in his restructuring. The room erupted. We can't force him to. That's character assassination. His severance is contractually guaranteed. I turn toward the door. Then enjoy bankruptcy. I hear Chapter 11 is lovely this time of year. Wait, Harrison's voice cracked like a teenager's. Just give us a moment, please. I stood by the window, looking down at the plaza where I'd eaten lunch on sunny days, back when I believed in this place. Behind me, urgent whispers, the sound of phones buzzing, someone actually whimpering. 3 minutes passed. We need Lucas's agreement on the statement, Harrison said. We can't legally compel him. Then get it. He won't answer our calls. I smiled. Tell him if he doesn't agree. I'll personally ensure every defense contractor in the country knows he single-handedly destroyed $800 million in federal contracts because he didn't understand basic compliance protocols. He'll never work in this industry again. He'll be lucky to get a job managing a Radio Shack in Tulsa. Jennifer dialed, speaker phone. 4 rings. What? Lucas's voice, rough, defeated. Lucas, it's the board. Isabella Hart is here. She has conditions. Silence. Harrison explained the third condition. More silence, then. She planned this. From the moment I announced the restructuring, she knew. Yes, I said, loud enough for him to hear. I knew you were an idiot. I knew you didn't understand the first thing about federal compliance. I knew you thought you could optimize away 12 years of institutional knowledge. And I knew that someday, probably sooner rather than later, you'd trip over your own arrogance. I just didn't expect you to hand me the rope. I'll be ruined. You ruined yourself the moment you thought people were redundancies. I'm just ensuring everyone knows it. A long pause. Then, barely audible. Fine. I want it in writing, I said. Drafted by legal, signed, and notarized, within the hour. The call ended. Harrison looked at me like I was either a savior or a demon. Maybe both. Is that all? One more thing, not a condition, just a promise. If anything like this happens again, if anyone in this company gets terminated without cause, humiliated publicly, treated as disposable, I'll make this week look like a minor inconvenience. I've built these systems once. I can build them again. And next time, I won't leave you a way out. Understood. Harrison's hand shook as he extended it. Welcome back, Ms. Hart. I didn't shake it. I'm not back. I'm fixing your mess because 8,000 people don't deserve to suffer for your stupidity. Monday morning, 9 a.m., I'll reactivate the contracts. Tuesday morning, I submit my resignation. Properly. With a transition plan and a trained successor, the way professionals do it. But that's the deal. Take it or leave it. They took it. 45 minutes later, Lucas Grant's statement hit the wire services. By evening, it was trending on every platform. The Boy Wonder CEO admitting he'd destroyed his company through incompetence and arrogance. His career immolation in real time. The $7 million hit my account Sunday morning. I donated $2 million to a fund for laid-off tech workers. The rest would buy me time to choose my next move carefully. Monday, 9 a.m. sharp. I walked into Veritech one last time. It took 14 keystrokes to reactivate the federal contracts. The system green-lit immediately, as if exhaling after holding its breath for a week. The Pentagon called within minutes, confirming restoration. The bleeding stopped. The company would survive. Tuesday morning, I submitted my resignation. Proper 2 weeks' notice. Full documentation. A transition plan that would make even Lucas Grant's Harvard professors weep with envy. As I walked out for the last time, Marcus the security guard stopped me. Ms. Hart? That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. They'll be talking about this for decades. Maybe they would. Or maybe they'd forget. The way corporations always forget lessons written in other people's blood. But for one perfect week, they remembered that some people aren't disposable. Some people are the load-bearing walls. And when you knock them down, everything crumbles. The boardroom had never felt smaller. 20 feet of mahogany table might as well have been 20 inches with the weight of desperation pressing down on every shoulder. Harrison Blake sat at the head, his Churchill Scotch untouched, probably the first time in 15 years he'd let good whiskey go warm. Ms. Hart, he began, then stopped, reconsidering whatever corporate platitude he'd prepared. Good. I wasn't here for speeches. I set my terms on the table. 3 bullet points on cream-colored paper. My personal letterhead, not Veritex. Read them. Harrison's eyes scanned the page. His face went from pale to translucent. $7 million. He read aloud for the benefit of the other board members. Full restoration of benefits. And Lucas Grant's public admission of incompetence with forfeiture of his severance. You have 60 seconds to decide, I said, checking my watch. 59, 58. This is extortion. One of the venture capitalists, a man who'd made his fortune stripping companies and selling their bones. No. Extortion would be if I created this situation. Lucas created it. You enabled it. I'm simply setting my price for cleaning up your mess. 45 seconds. Jennifer started frantically typing on her laptop, probably calculating if they could survive without me. The answer was already evident in the $200 million in penalties they'd accumulated. 30 seconds. We accept. Harrison's voice cracked. All of it. Everything. Just. Please. I pulled out my phone, already connected to the federal contract system. I need Lucas's statement first. In writing. Notarized. It took them 12 minutes to get Lucas on the phone. Another 15 to draft the statement. 8 more for him to break down and sign it. I listened to him sob over speakerphone, this boy genius who thought people were just numbers on a spreadsheet. At 3:47 p.m., I entered my authorization code. 14 keystrokes. The red alerts turned green, one by one, like dominoes falling in reverse. $800 million in contracts hummed back to life. The room exhaled collectively. Someone actually applauded before catching themselves. Your money will be transferred within the hour, Harrison said. When will you start back? I won't. The silence was exquisite. I'm fixing this because 8,000 people don't deserve to pay for your arrogance. But I'll never work for a company that thought I was disposable. My resignation will be on your desk Tuesday morning. 2 weeks' notice. Full transition documentation. Everything done properly. The way you should have handled this from the beginning. I stood to leave, then turned back. Oh, and gentlemen, the next time you consider someone redundant, remember this week. Remember what one person with institutional knowledge and federal credentials can do. Remember that your optimization spreadsheets don't account for the human beings who actually make your companies work. The door closed on their stunned faces with a satisfying click. 2 weeks later, I cleaned out my office, properly this time. No cardboard box, no 30-minute timer, no security escort. People lined the hallways to watch me go, some applauding, others just nodding with respect. Marcus hugged me at the main entrance. Where will you go? He asked. Somewhere that understands value isn't measured in quarterly reports. The $7 million minus my donations to laid-off worker funds bought me freedom. Freedom to choose, to wait, to find a company that understood that employees aren't costs to be optimized but investments to be protected. Lucas Grant never worked in tech again. His name became a cautionary tale, whispered in business schools about the CEO who destroyed $1 billion company because he didn't understand what his chief compliance officer actually did. Harvard quietly removed him from their alumni spotlight page. Veritech survived, barely. They lost 40% of their value, 3 major contracts, and most importantly, the trust of their employees. Harrison Blake retired within 6 months. The new board implemented a policy requiring 90-day transition periods for all critical positions. They called it the Hart Protocol. As for me, I finished my wine collection, took a month in Tuscany, and eventually accepted a position with a smaller firm that understood that sometimes the most important people in a company are the ones who know where all the keys are hidden. But for one perfect week, I held a $3 billion company hostage with nothing more than a password and the federal government's own rules. 1 week where the powerful learned what it felt like to be powerless. 1 week where treating someone as disposable cost $100,000 an hour. They thought I was redundant. Turned out I was the foundation. And when you remove the foundation, everything above it falls. The door closed behind me for the last time, not with the thunderous crack of revenge, but with the quiet click of justice served cold, precise, and perfectly legal. Thank you so much for listening to this story of corporate justice and sweet revenge. If you enjoyed Isabella's tale of turning the tables on corporate arrogance, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you're listening from, whether it's your morning commute, a late-night session, or somewhere in between. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and share your thoughts on what you would have done in Isabella's position. Sometimes the best revenge isn't breaking the rules, it's knowing them better than anyone else.